So I used Office Lens to digitize The Paper Bag Princess. It was the storybook that I had around the house, and I wanted to try digitizing it because then I thought as a teacher I could digitize any kind of leveled readers that my students might be reading. This way they'd have access to it at home, which is pretty cool, and it also gives them the opportunity to use the storybook in conjunction with Google Read and Write. And I kind of thought that they could use this in two ways. The first way is that they can just practice their read aloud to practice their fluency and get the chance to hear themselves read, which is actually an opportunity that students don't always have. So I highlight the text. I have Google Read and Write installed as an extension in my Chrome browser. And then I click on the icon and I can go to this button that says Practice Reading Aloud. So I hit that. It actually brings me to a new page that just has the text. There's no pictures, which is okay, not ideal. But over here I can click my little microphone there and I can say Start Recording. Elizabeth was a beautiful princess. She lived in a castle and had expensive princess clothes. She was going to marry a prince named Ronald. And so once I've read that, I can listen to myself, see if I read it fluently or if I struggled. And if I did struggle, I can go back and fix what I wanted to practice more. So let's listen to it really quickly here. Elizabeth was a beautiful princess. She lived in a castle and had expensive princess clothes. She was going to marry a prince named Ronald. That's awesome. So as a student, that could give me valuable information about my own learning. And as a teacher, I can have my students actually email this reading that they created to me. And I can actually listen to them reading without actually being physically present with every single student in my classroom, which can be challenging. So this way I can just listen to students read, do my running records. I don't have to be doing it in person. And then I can use that to plan my reading groups accordingly, which I find really useful as a teacher. The other thing that I really like about Google Read and Write is that students can listen to Google read the passage first, especially if there's any words that they don't understand or they're just not hitting that fluency. They don't know what it should sound like. So I thought that was a really cool option about Google Read and Write as well, in conjunction with a storybook that was digitized using Office Lens. So I can listen to Google read it to me.
Elizabeth was a beautiful princess. She lived in a castle and had expensive princess clothes. She was going to marry a prince named Ronald.
So that's pretty good. The computer-generated voice still isn't the most natural-sounding voice, but it's still a good model, especially because teachers can't always be present to model that fluency. And it's not the only model that students will have either at home or at school, so I think it's still a useful tool. So that's kind of my foray into assistive technologies. I got to know Office Lens a little bit more. I found it pretty useful, especially for kind of guided reading purposes, and really loving Google Read and Write. Can't wait to experiment with it more and see what I can find out.